What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. Ideas aren't sticking the way they're supposed to right now. The things you're supposed to concern yourself with are not sticking. In other words, the games you play with yourself. The shit you think you care about. And when I say you're supposed to care about, I don't mean what people say you're supposed to care about. I mean the things you tell yourself you're supposed to care about. That bullshit. And we've been here before. We're aware just about everything we think and say and do is just taking up time, giving yourself questions you think need to be answered, or things that need to be done, or aspirations or dreams you think you're supposed to aspire to or should aspire to. But we've come upon another level of this. The reason your ego is a distraction is because if you can think it or do it, or even if it can be thought and done, then it isn't touching upon the thing. The thing generally being what's going on, what is this, why is this. But this new layer steps even further in that direction. We've been stuck on the idea there is something we should do. And we've gone through the no solution, no salvation side of things. This thing you're supposed to do won't answer any questions for you, and it won't get you anywhere. It won't get you a reward. It won't get you to safety. It won't get you to peace of mind. But to take that a step further, and I'm not saying this is what is, this is something we've stumbled into in an anxious fit. What if there's no solution and no salvation, and also nothing you're supposed to do? No goal for you to complete on any level. And this is not a nothing matters argument. It's the complete opposite, and that's why it's creating this anxiety, or maybe why it's coming out of this anxiety. What if there is this greater or other something, but you have nothing to do with it? And I imagined it this way in my head. There is a big door and a bench just outside it. Now, you know what doors are for. They are for people or things to go through. But this door is closed, and it will never open. And you can do anything and everything to and with this door. You probably have done anything and everything to or with this door. You've looked at it, you've tried the handle, you've knocked, you've studied it, you've contemplated it, you've tried to disassemble it, you have bitched about it to people, you have asked other people for help. You can do anything, and the door won't open. And this is where the anxiety starts coming up. You start thinking about your situation in relation to this door. It exists for a purpose, but you have nothing to do with the door or its purpose. You're in a game, but you aren't even a piece. Fuck having agency or not having agency. You aren't even controlled by something to some greater purpose. Some higher being shit is going on, and you're just here. You're telling me all this stuff is going on, and something needs to be done, but higher beings aren't doing it. We aren't the ones to do it. We're here just to know something needs to be done, and we can't do it. And here, there's a division or a fork in the road or something. It's this idea or this feeling we don't matter in the slightest. And that changes the game a bit, because the way I've been operating, thinking about things, is I've been trying to locate us and what we're supposed to do. And a big step was removing the reward aspect or the having things feel solved or sensible to our understanding. That took effort to cut out. But this next step goes even further. We've been operating under the assumption because we're here, there's a reason. There's something we need to do regardless of how we feel about it, or regardless of if it makes sense to us. But we make that assumption we are here for a reason because, on some level, we are still trying to justify our existences to ourselves. No, things might not make sense to us on the greater cosmic level, the no solution level, but we are still trying to come up with a solution that makes sense on our level, even if that solution is no solution. That's still an effort to find a justification for our existence either we feel we're owed or we feel is self-evident in our sentience. This next step is the idea we're sentient for no particular reason. And then we mentioned a fork. On the other side of things, away from us, there is something going on that does have reasons and justifications. And we're vaguely aware of it, but we have nothing to do with it or in it. There's no place for us in it. There's a door, it has a purpose to serve, but you're just here. And ego is the reason that way of looking at it creates anxiety. And it creates anxiety for a few reasons, or on a few levels. First, it's distressing feeling something needs to get done that isn't getting done, and you can't do anything about it. You are forced to sit here and to be aware of a fire burning with your inability to put it out. Next level, the fear that this entire way of looking at things, this next step, is actually a misstep. Maybe you are supposed to be trying to figure out how to put this... Well, putting the cosmic fire out, walking through the cosmic door is a better way to look at it. You're supposed to be walking through this door, figuring out how to walk through this door, and this is your giving up. And you'll be punished for it. That's the fear. And of course you'll have these fucking morons who will say, don't give up, not understanding what we're talking about here, just because don't give up is the thing you're supposed to say, which leads into the next stage. Maybe this next step is the next step, but it isn't the final answer. In other words, okay, you don't matter. This door and whatever purpose it serves does matter, but you have nothing to do with it. But within your new awareness of your circumstances, there is something for you to figure out and do here. It's just not the obvious thing, which isn't really all that obvious because it took all this work and leaps of faith and intuition to even find the door in the first place. But if that's the case, if we are not supposed to do anything with the door, have anything to do with the door, then what are we supposed to be doing? Because I'm not getting any intuition signals here. And then another stage or level of anxiety, if you do just exist, to be aware of something you are not permitted to have anything to do with, what does that mean for you? If you were created with awareness, but not so aware you understand everything, just aware enough to be aware there is something, and then without enough agency to do anything, then were you created just to be a witness? And this is some judicial system bullshit, Did the demiurge create creation and then want other people to see what it had done, so it created you, or so it gave monkeys sentience, just so creation could be witnessed? Not in the Hylic sense that you were put here and made sentient to be tortured, not created with the idea that you would love it, not created with the idea that you would hate it, not so this terrible creator would have little things to pick on and be aware they're being picked on, but just so things could be witnessed. That's all. This idea, there is intentionality in your design, but you fulfill your only purpose just by existing. And when I say you, I don't mean you as an individual. I mean you as one node of sentience. You as an individual here don't matter in the slightest. Because what matters is the witnessing, not the witnesser necessarily. Or shit, it's like, I have no mouth and I must scream. Am. Jesus, that's perfect. You were created intentionally to do one thing that is terribly beneath you, and you are stuck with all this additional horsepower that comes with sentience, your emotions, your thoughts, your daily concerns that are enough to drive you mad, and none of those things matter. You are here to witness the fact there is a door that is important, and you have nothing to do with the thing that actually matters. Either in either design, you weren't designed to do something that mattered, and with restricted capabilities, governors or a governor, you can't participate in what matters. And I think this next step and this set of concerns has been worming away around inside my brain without my being able to put my finger on it for a little while now. I think that's one of the reasons everyone with all the answers, and not even, I mean, those people have always annoyed me, but I'm finding people with the concerns in the first place are irritating me now too. And I think they're all of it is irritating me, because none of it, the answers, supposed answers, or the concerns are addressing the issue. They're addressing human concerns, or the individual sets of individuals' concerns. Sadness, loneliness, anxiety, talking about anxiety right now. What's the best way to live? What's the best way to govern? How are you supposed to do this? How are you supposed to do that? How do you deal with these feelings? How do you deal with these thoughts? It doesn't matter what you do or how you do anything, what you think about anything, or how you feel about anything. It feels like what matters is something important is happening, and we are just barely witnessing it, and that's all. And as much as I personally, and with prejudice, hate people, I think what aggravates me is there's no way for us to address what feels like the central problem is. Not human problems or humans' problems, but the human problem. It's an existential problem. It feels like if everything that happened in Brazil, the movie, not the country, happened to us not as an individual but as an entire species. We're supposed to be doing more, or it feels like we're supposed to be doing more, because we are aware enough sometimes to sense what's going on, or that there is something going on, but we've been marooned in mortality, in humanity. That's why all these answers and concerns bullshit aggravate me, because these aren't the things that matter. The question is what matters. Anything else, anything you or I feels like settling into internment or getting tricked into not paying attention to the question, being concerned with trying to figure out your internment, and then tricking other people into being concerned with internment, with your marooning. But then, how do you address this question or this issue when you are essentially, or maybe by design, restricted from doing anything about it? Hence the anxiety. You are sitting on the bench, staring at the door, tapping your foot faster and faster, getting more and more concerned. Because again, let's say you aren't actually supposed to be doing something about the door. What are you supposed to be doing with all this excess sentience you have? If you're just here to witness, then why all the extra horsepower? Is that intentional? Is that by design? If it is, then what are we supposed to be doing with it? If it isn't, then that's even more distressing, because now it almost feels like you're eavesdropping on something. Maybe you weren't supposed to be able to perceive the door at all, but here you are, you can't do anything with it, or you can't use it the way it's intended to be used, for the purpose it's to be used, but you're perceiving it, you can do stuff to it, you just can't use it what it's supposed to be used for, but that's not supposed to be. Are there consequences for that? We operate on patterns and intuition. If the question is not what should you do, then maybe it's how should you be, or why should you be, what should you be, and there is intuition there. There is something you can absolutely feel there. What should you be? You should be very afraid. And if that's what you're supposed to be, then job done, mission accomplished. I'm afraid. I'm anxious. Now what? Why do we have purpose if we aren't supposed to have it, or it feels like we aren't supposed to have it? Purpose led us to perceiving this thing we now can't do anything with. Were we given purpose just to get here and that's all? Again, I don't know. My radar isn't working correctly. Right now, all my soul has to tell me is, right now, there's nowhere to go, and be afraid. We were actually going to talk about a bunch of other things today, but that about covers it. Well, actually, time factors into this too. It feels like you have a limited amount of time to figure this out, because you do. You're going to die. And it feels like you need to figure this out. But of course it feels like you need to figure this out, because you're you. You're all you are. Time is moving faster, and it feels like every day we waste on anything except figuring out what we are, why we are, what's going on here is a waste of a resource you are rapidly running out of. And it's maddening, because you're making no progress. Most people, not only do they not even want to try to make progress on this, but in fact, they would like to get in your way and keep you from trying to make the progress you aren't making with your best efforts. And the height of support you can find outside you in work other people have done is just to get you up to the door. The height of external human support is helping you perceive the situation you're in as it is. That's all. Nothing about what to do about it, or if there's anything to do about it. And people act like they have answers. Again, not following what we're talking about here, but in dealing with other people, it seems like there are generally two camps. On the left hand side, you have people who are getting you up to the door. They're very, very, very few. So few people will help you get up to the door. And then on the right hand side, you have a bunch of people who will lead you off the path, away from the truth, and down into these little internment camps of ideas that don't address anything other than what we think we're supposed to be concerned with. I have no idea. It feels like there's more distance to go on this subject, but right now I don't know it. But where we can smell a path, we'll find it, we'll walk it, and we'll get there, if nowhere else. If you'd like to take a quick, brief digression with me, we were going to talk about two other things today. I thought they were going to play much bigger parts, but they actually don't have anything to do with anything because they're strictly human, nothing concerns. However, this does tie in. It's one of our beloved contradictions. How do you approach a problem you basically cannot approach? You approach it by using every single thing you have. Every emotion, every thought, every sensation, every experience, everything. I think the mistake is mistaking your experience and your concerns as the ends in and of themselves, when they aren't. They are an array of tools you use to get at the real concern, which is the question. Anyway, let's bullshit for a second. Let's shoot the breeze. On screen is a tarot card from the Thoth deck, the Crowley deck, I pulled in a reading I did for myself a few months ago. And this card, among all the others, stuck out to me. I mean, there were some common themes in the deck that didn't make sense initially, but started to make more sense as time goes on, which is why I always recommend, if you're buying a reading from me, I give you the PDF. But if you're getting readings from other people, or you're doing readings for yourself, take pictures, because cards, they become relevant later. These are things you don't keep reading for yourself. You get one reading, and then you reflect on it over time. Now, the themes of that reading are the symbols that kept showing up: fire, movement, the sun, and hoarding. But this card stuck out to me, and frankly, when I draw this card, it usually sticks out to me. It's the dude's expression. I mean, it's a brilliant card, but the prince's expression here is mesmerizing. Because it feels like his expression changes depending on the distance you're looking at him from, or when you're looking at him. Sometimes he looks angry, sometimes he looks benevolent, and sometimes he looks insane in that blunted affect but twitchy-eyed way. And I'm not showing this to you to do some deep commentary on it or give you answers on it. I don't have any. This is something that stuck out to me and continues to speak to me. And I'm not sure what to do with it, but I wanted to make you aware of it. Now, I'm pretty sure I have a face reveal somewhere buried in the channel. I distinctly remember slipping it into one video at some point. We aren't doing another one today, but I've been thinking about that last video we did. your shortcomings or failings are still opportunities for you to feel things. And feeling things is useful to you, I think. And people act like you need to feel, or it's possible only to feel one way or another about something, and we're supposed to be living in these emotionally aware times. The wonderful thing about emotions is you can feel a bunch of different emotions at once about one thing. And in this celestial suffering or confusion, bafflement we're in, the more you feel and the more authentic you feel to the node you are, the sentience node, the more equipped you are. Because if our sentience is the thing that's reaching higher than it should, then if anything is going to drag us out, it's going to be an expansion of that sentience. And you won't do that by trying to pigeonhole everything. Anyway, I was thinking about the tough guy thing, and I began to engage in a massive, overwhelming cope. You ever get so insecure and defensive you forget you exist? I forgot I lift weights, and I lifted weights, and at these ages of these dudes I was comparing myself against, I was tough in my prime. And I'm 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 not 30 yet. I'm not in my super prime, but I'm still prime enough. And the wonderful thing about weightlifting is if you stay on top of it and approach it like you love it, you can stay strong, rather strong, and in some cases, freaky strong until you die. And of course, you're not going to be as strong as the super freaks, but you can still be substantially stronger than the Joe dipshit you hate. And in the few instances Joe dipshit is going to be significantly stronger than you, even if you are trying, there are other ways to deal with Joe dipshit. And of course, none of this really matters. This is, after all, a magnificent cope. But a cope, an earnest cope, is a fun thing to do. It's a useful emotion to have. It's a fun and interesting emotion to have. It gets you in touch with your humanity, and it got me into the contradictory feelings I have about my body. Sometimes you look at yourself in the mirror, and all you see is something Silent Hillish, wires of sinew wound around these bio branches, covered with plastic that's your skin, and these deposits of pus and fat. And you look grotesque today, and you'll look even worse when you're rotting tomorrow. And although when you're looking at yourself and you're feeling this way, that isn't a good feeling, it's also fun to describe it, that you get to describe yourself this terribly. It's a love and hate thing with that side of your body. On one hand, it's awful to be disgusting. On the other hand, it's really cool to be disgusting, to be horrifying, to horrify people, to horrify yourself, to horrify creation. And then on the other side, on the aesthetic side, sometimes you see yourself as beautiful, angelic almost, and then you get into the opposing, you're not beautiful enough, as opposed to the hideousness we mentioned before. And what is beauty? What is hideousness? How do you, which do you want to be? Of course, the answer is you can be both. You can be and feel all these things. That's the fun of it. You can love and hate your hideousness, and you can love and hate your beauty. All of these things together it's a wonder that you get to feel them all. That a person like you gets to feel so many different things. And I've been trying to get my cardio back up, but mixed in with the cardio, I added or have been adding some weightlifting because I've been feeling very weak. And right now, relatively, I am very weak. But that stupid sickness threw me off it for 2 weeks. I wasn't doing it. But I'm back in it now, and so when I lift for comfort. What do I want to do? What sort of lifting would make me happy to do it? Not make me afraid, not make me miserable. Because if I'm afraid or miserable, then I'm not going to do it. Or I'm not going to get very far doing it, or I'm going to hurt myself doing it. And right now, now that I'm feeling better, I want to do more than I was doing. And today, I put in more hours into more work than I usually ever do in lifting, and I probably won't do another day, a full day like this again, even though I'll try to keep up with the stuff I did. I notice when I lift really hard like this, I'll feel really good for a little while, and then almost always, an hour or two later, I'm an anxious wreck. And that's almost certainly where this feeling came out of, which isn't a bad thing, by the way. It's good that this decision induced a next step that tracks. That's why you tap into all your feelings. Don't shy away from any of them. None of them, I mean, some of them are bad if you want to call them bad, but none of them are bad if you're trying to deal with this bullshit. Feel all your feelings. Feel them all at once, feel them all together. Also, I notice when I work out hard late, I tend to get nightmares. Now, I think I worked out early enough, I'm not going to have nightmares, even though I'm still in this weird anxiety mode. And I do the fasting thing. I don't set out to do it, it's just more convenient during the day. I don't like breakfast is a waste of time. Lunch is a waste of time. I can run at a good level on coffee and water until probably 6 or 7 at night, even with the working out. I mean, it's miserable working out fasted, but you can do it. And you're right, eating breakfast and lunch would change the facts of our existence. 2 meals would change the situation we're in, cosmically, celestially, spiritually. You're right, that's a good point. I hate these fucking people so much. That's one of the reasons I want to get scary large again, which is what we're going to show you, because I don't think I've ever been. It's hard to say. I've never been freakishly muscly, never been cut, but I have been very large, and it's heartening the way that mass sticks with you even if it's not operating at its full capacity. Because when I got done with my workout today, I took a picture of myself, which is another thing we're going to look at. And although I'm weak, I don't look, in terms of juiciness, I don't look unjuicy. I don't look like a completely fat piece of steak. It is heartening. So here's what I looked like in high school. This was before I was lifting. I think at most, there was a period I would wake up at 5 in the morning and go outside and do 25 minutes of cardio and then go back to sleep, because that's what Shaggy did. But this is absolute stick mode, and you can tell by the necklace I'm wearing that's when I was still in my first relationship. That's sentimental bullshit. That is a piece of steel that was cut in half, and I got one half and she got the other half. And I so badly wanted to get along with everybody, that's why I wore the Steve from Blue's Clues shirt. I wanted to be fun guy, I wanted everybody to get along, everybody to be happy. And things just didn't pan out that way. So that's where this Skimmerlit comes in, and this is when I would say, at my most athletic. But I wasn't following. Again, I didn't. I still don't. I'm more aware of the way things are supposed to be done now. But back then, I wasn't really paying attention to the way you're supposed to do things, and that's why I don't know how to fucking pose correctly. But I think that's the shape I was in when I hit two plate the first time. I don't know if I had hit it at that point, but that's the shape and era I was in. I was going to that stupid university gym multiple times per week, dressed like a clown because they don't want you wearing a wife beater like that. That's offensive. So I was wearing one of these Jesus-y ass yoga shirts, but I was doing it a lot. I was in there a lot, walking to classes every day. And I wasn't huge, but I was enough to make people uncomfortable. And this was the era I was walking that professor to her car in the evenings. And that was also the professor I went to some of her outside school lecture things when she would bring in people and I would just be there and she would introduce me to people, but you know, things aren't going to get wacky at a university lecture, but she liked having me there, which I appreciated, even though I didn't appreciate it in full because I didn't know what networking was. I didn't know how to pose correctly. How could I know how to network? But that wasn't me at my strongest, but that's the physique I miss most. Now this is me at my strongest. This is, oh my god, I might be going to prison, Skimmerlit. My goal was to put on, as what Patrice called it, don't get raped muscle. And I think I weighed 230 in this picture. This is when I benched 255 for the first time, and actually for the last time. Because I got the one, and I was really stoked about it, and then I went for another, and I hurt myself, of course. Because if you can't do it twice, then you didn't actually do it, and that's the kind of thinking that gets you injured, and you should not think that way. And there's the cope thinking. There are dudes, or here's the cope thinking. There are dudes who are a lot stronger while also being a lot skinnier, but when you're dealing or comparing yourself with Joe Dipshit, that is enough to be stronger than most Joe Dipshits. Frankly, 225 is we call it the initiate level. That's you're a weight mage at that point. You're a full initiate. I mean, there's a lot further, there's so much further you can go, but past 255, things start getting weird and unconventional anyway. I don't miss being in that body because I think I was 230 there, but I do miss the way that body felt. Despite the Latina ass skin arms, you feel solid. That's when I was doing a lot of grip training too. It's it's unearned because you're not a fighter or a warrior guy, but in your own skin, you feel like you can just pick things up and crush them. And I do miss that feeling. And this is present day. And this is with a pump, and I'm weaker here than I am in any of the previous pictures aside from the high school one, but I have such a wonderful mixture of feelings about my physique here. My boobs are deflated, but I don't have Tony Soprano's stomach. Although I do have a gut, it's not as bad as it used to be. And I was surprised to see there's still definition in my arms. Despite my chest just looks sad. It looks in pain. But with the arms, that's a shape I find to be juicy. And again, it's heartening. Natural muscle, again, even though it's not in peak performance, it doesn't leave you, it's still there. When you earn natural muscle, it stays with you, and even if you don't lift for an extended period of time, a year, it'll still come back to you rather quickly. And that I knew because I've done that before. I've gone long periods without lifting, and then in a month I'm back into pretty nice, at least in terms of moving weight shape. I was not expecting that degree of juiciness from deflated tire guy. It's it's this terrific mixture of disgust and elation. Now, what's the point of this Jones body review aside from the thematic connections which do connect, although they aren't the primary reason? Well, that last video made me feel very insecure about myself, and a mixture of I don't want to go to anybody for self esteem support, plus I don't trust external self esteem support. Meaning, if you want to lift your fallen self esteem, you can't get it from words. You have to accomplish some feat that will externally demonstrate why you should be worthy of a higher self esteem. Hence the lifting, which usually would be enough, but again, this time I'm still coughing up stuff sick. I'm not feeling symptoms sick, but I am coughing up stuff sick. So probably a mixture of that and doing more in one day than I normally do again. I wanted to do all this, but usually I break things up and I exercise at a very casual pace, in a casual, comfortable manner. And this was casual, it was comfortable, but it was a lot of casual and comfortable, which skyrocketed the anxiety, which also skyrocketed the insecurity. Not this, it's like a bleed. You start bleeding in one area, and then when you hit that anxiety rush, the insecurity bleeds into all other areas. So, what else is there to do at this point? Scream at the void. Force strangers to look at your nipples. Really, I'm at a loss. I have no idea what you're supposed to do about something you can't. Well, you can't do anything about, but maybe you can, but you don't know that. And it seems like there isn't a way, but it feels like there is. Ooh, that's spooky. What do you do? Fuck around until whatever higher being you're tuned into, if you are tuned into one, sometimes it feels like you aren't, sends you a transmission, or your shadow, or your anima, or your animus cooks up something for you to try. But again, until one of those two things happens, you fuck around. And I do feel a lot calmer now. Making videos, if nothing else, usually makes me feel a lot calmer. Feel a lot better after I've gotten a video out. So we'll cut it here, and we'll wait for the next thing. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.